So it's about time. I finally decided to make a YouTube video, and I want to thank all of you guys out there for tuning in. I'm going to be starting this thing called What's That Style? And essentially what What's That Style is that I'm going to be going around just studying different forms or different types of editing styles, like desaturated, warm vintage, so on and so forth, and I'm going to teach you guys basically how to do it. In other words, no more endless scrolling on the internet trying to find one video from another video. It's all going to be on one channel right here. So with that being said, today what we're going to learn is how to take a photo and make it warm vintage. So right here, we're going to be using a good photo of my friend Ray. What I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten up the photo, size it down for Instagram, and just get any lens corrections and things like that out of the way, because nobody wants to do that at the end of it, especially if you have the photo at the perfect point of what you think your photo should be. So over here, when we scroll the way down, we're going to go to where it says lens corrections. I suggest this for anybody using a digital camera. So now I'm just gonna remove all the issues. I'm just gonna select the lens I was using at the time, which actually that is correct. It was an 18x200. I am going to level it, make sure everything looks good, and then I'm going to crop. I'm gonna bring it to that 8x10, and then I'm just gonna adjust it to my liking. Perfect. Tap enter, and now we're good. The next thing that we need to do is to give our photo a warmer tone, because as of currently it has a more cooler effect. That's due to the settings that I had on the camera when I took the picture. What we're gonna do with this cool effect, I'm gonna make it a little bit warmer, and I'm gonna bring this up a little bit meaning like a handful. 45 looks good. So far, just it looking as warm as it is, I can end it right here and we can call it a day. We're not gonna do that, we got more to do. So the next thing I want to do is kind of bring up the exposure. Now, mind you, it's already perfectly exposed, but I do tend to like my photos more on the bright side or the overexposed side. And sometimes I'll keep a high contrast. It just depends on what I'm feeling. But what we're going to do, we're going to bring up the exposure to 15. All right, looks good. I mean, just from pressing the letter Y, you can see the difference in the photo already, okay? So depending on the placement, the setting of your subject or whatever you have in your photo, sometimes less is more. Back in here, I'm gonna go to my shadows, and I'm actually gonna bring it down so I can at least get some of those in there. I'm gonna bring it down to, let's say about 29, that's fine with me, okay? So next, I'm gonna go into where it says clarity, and I'm gonna bring the clarity down just a notch, maybe like 10. Now, I'm gonna go into vibrance, and I'm gonna bring down the vibrance, which just means that I'm bringing down more of the natural colors, just a little bit. So now I'm moving into the tone curve tool. So here in this photo, it already looks good to me, right? But we want that ashy kind of vibe to it. We want to kind of matte it down a little bit. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring this part up just a little bit, right? You might notice some of the shadows, the blacks are kind of fading a little bit, and that's because we're kind of removing it in such a way. But I'm gonna bring it back just a little bit by clicking here on this line, because mind you, this line you have over here essentially is the line that's going to affect everything. And we're gonna bring this down just a little bit, just to still kind of keep in some of the black. We don't want to lose all of it. And you see how it gives you like that nice little matte tone finish? Well, we're not done yet. I like to do 3 points usually, so I will click into 3 points, which would be one in the corner, one in the middle, and one up top. I'm gonna bring the mids back up because I don't want to lose the mids. I just want the shadows to have like this ashier effect. But I am gonna bring down the highlights. Now, I'm gonna bring it down in such a way where it kind of has like that old vibe to it, and I think I got it. I think I'm gonna bring down the top of the white just a little bit too, because like I said, I like my photos overexposed, but just to play fair, I want to make sure that I'm on the same page with doing like a warm vintage kind of photo and stuff like that. So moving on to the next thing will be the HSL, better known as hue, saturation, and luminance. Now, I personally love this tool, and the reason why I love this tool so much is because 1, I love colors, and 2, if you know your color theories, your visions are endless. So in here, I'm gonna take some of the red, I'm gonna bring it down, I'm gonna say about 17. Yeah, that looks good. And the oranges seem okay, because mind you, when you're using orange, you're affecting not just the skin tones in this photo, but you're affecting the brown wood and anything that has like an orange, yellow, or reddish kind of tone. So we don't want to overdo it. Next one I'm gonna end up doing over here is I'm gonna go to the yellows and I'm gonna bring it down to about 18. And then I'm gonna move into where it says green, because why not? We will be adding green in this photo just so that we can complement the shadows. But don't worry too much if you already have green, like a green sweater or green leaves. We'll be doing this a little bit different, so it shouldn't affect too much of what you already have. I'm also going to play with the aquas and blues because she does have a blue sweater on, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit. And now, mind you, it is slight. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to show you what changed. So I'm going to bring it in. Boom. Give it like a full blue. So in saturations, I'm going to make sure what needs to pop out, pops out. What needs to be dull is going to stay dull. So let's start with the reds. I love that red chair in the background. It definitely pops out for me. And I want to bring it up to, let's say, about 30%. We don't want to do too much. That's good. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to move in and to my oranges. And I want to still bring up some of her skin tone. So let's bring up to about 7. That looks about good to me. And then in green, I'm going to leave it alone because there isn't really much green happening in this photo. So we don't have to worry too much about that. But moving down over to blue or aqua, I'm going to boost that to about 100%. I don't want to go deep into this, but I just feel like it's important to mention that if you're using hues, like for example, taking a red to make it yellow or take a green to make it blue, when you are using the hues and you jump into saturation, and let's say you want to, I don't know, boost the blues to 100% for whatever reason, and you're realizing that there's a portion in your photo that has blue but is not becoming more saturated as you're bringing up the levels, it's potentially because when you had taken that color green, for example, right, and you switched it over to blue, you basically told Lightroom that this green is blue, and so that when you're using the saturation levels, that your green is now also an additional to blue. If that makes any sense. I hope I'm not making anybody, confused when I said that. So you'll see an example of this in the video, but I'm just mentioning it for you guys so you guys just know. So now with the blues, I'm gonna bring it up to about 70%. 80%. Perfect. And I'm gonna also play with the purples because purples do align with the blues and stuff like that. I'm gonna go over to the purple. I'm gonna bring it up even enough to the blues, just so that it kind of melts itself in between. And I'm gonna leave the magentas alone because not much magenta going around here. Now we're done with saturation. Let's move on to luminance. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take down some of that red that we just happened to boost up. 34 is more than enough for me, just so that we can give, like I said, that vintage look. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the oranges. So orange, I'll bring it down slightly because we want to make sure her skin tone is good, and as well as the wood around her. And we're gonna bring down this yellow. No, actually, I want to bring it up. Give the walls like a little bit more brighter pop. I think about 21. That's fine. I'm gonna, like I said, when I skip green, because like I said, there's no green in this photo. Now we go back to the aqua, and we are going to bring this up very high. I want to say around like 80 or something like that. Yeah, that looks good. And with the blue, I'm gonna bring it down slightly. And with the purple, I'm actually gonna bring it up. See around here, that's fine. Oh my God, I like this photo already. I kind of want to leave it alone, but the next thing that we need to infuse with this beautiful photo is using the split tone tool. So one thing I'm gonna do is I want it to have like this reddish kind of tone, because like I said, we want to keep it warm. So I'm gonna go into saturation for the highlights, and just so you know what it's affecting, if you boost your saturation up to like 100%, this is what is affecting your highlights. And if you do for the shadows, same thing, your shadows now are affected. Now, what I'm gonna do is I am going to bring just a little. One thing about photography is that you want to make sure things are consistent, or depending on your style, maybe inconsistent in a way, but in this case, consistent. And when we're using the split tone tool, it's similar to like salt and pepper, right? And Gordon Ramsay can attest to this. So if you use too much of something, right? So if you have too much salt, it's gross. Too much pepper is gross. But if you have like the even amount or the right amount of stuff that you need to make your food taste good, then you pretty much did a good job. Same thing with split tones. So you can take something up to like completely red and take something else to like completely blue, and then shit looks crazy. And then when you bring it back together and like take your time with it and you add the right amount of things you need, things start to look a little bit better. So in split toning, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it up slightly, man. Like, I mean, like, what, 14? That's perfect. That's beautiful. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go into the shadows, and I don't want it to have another red tone. I want it to have like this green tint to it, because with old photos, you know, they have like that greenish tone to it. So I'm going to bring in the shadows some of that green, because I don't want it to overpower the photo. And I'm going to bring it up to mere 12, probably. No more than what the red is. So again, let's press Y so we can see the difference in what was before and the after. You're gonna see the differences so far, and it looks absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. Now that we're nearing the final steps, I mean, for me personally, you're pretty much done, but I would personally like to add like some of that Kodak fine grain into the photo to give it more of that authentic, warm, vintage kind of look. And just basically to pull it all together. So in here, I'm gonna skip past the sharpness and I'm gonna go all the way to green. And for me, I think, honestly, you want to add like that smooth texture for me. So I'm going to go up to maybe about like 38 probably. And just so you can see what's changed, if you get close, this is your before without it, and this is your after. And that grain texture just gives it such an authentic kind of feel, you know? So if you scroll down to the bottom, you're gonna have your grain option right over here. And you know, if you ever use Kodak film or play with like a Kodak camera, you know that they have like this fine grain kind of. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to bring up the grain to about, I'd say about 30, 37, I can work with that. And just so you can see what the differences are, I'm gonna zoom all the way in, and I'm gonna turn off the effect of having green. And as you can see how nice this is without it, but when you add it, it kind of gives like that authentic, you know, warm, vintage kind of vibe. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna zoom right back out. And then lastly, I'm just gonna go and probably sharpen the photo just a little bit. I'm gonna bring it up somewhere around the 30s. I don't wanna do anything else more than that. Well, ladies and gents, we're basically done with the photo, and these are the befores and afters. Now at this point, you guys can basically freestyle your own photo and create a new look for your brand, Instagram, or your grandmama birthday. But if you like this video, click the like button, subscribe, and leave comments. And if you disliked it, well, I don't think I need to tell you what to do. You'll figure it out.